Hello and welcome to the Alpha Edge Podcast, the show for men over 50 who refuse to fade out, slow down, play small, or settle for average. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert, coach, and founder of the Alpha Edge, and I am here to help you get and stay strong in every dimension of your life, physically, mentally, emotionally, morally, and spiritually. You're here because you're ready to reclaim your power, to own your masculinity, and lead your life with strength and purpose. If you're ready to sharpen your edge, revive your drive, and lead like a man who's built for more, you're in the right place. All right, men, let's get after it. All right, men, time for some real talk. We live in a time where speaking your mind can get you fired, where holding traditional values can get you labeled as toxic, bigoted, or part of the problem, where the rules for what you can say, how you can say it, and even what you're allowed to believe seem to change week by week. If you felt you're walking on eggshells at work, online, maybe even at your dinner table, you're not alone. And here's the kicker. For a lot of us, this isn't just some abstract culture war out there somewhere. It's in our homes. Some of us have kids or close friends who've bought into every part of this modern woke ideology. They've been told that traditional masculinity, the very thing we stand for, is dangerous, outdated, maybe even evil. So what do? Do you bite your tongue and just go along to get along? Do you fight back hard and risk blowing up a relationship? Or is there another way? And that's what I want to talk about today. So we're going to talk about how a masculine man can navigate this woke culture with honor, integrity, boldness, and love. How you can stand firm in your convictions without becoming obnoxious or abrasive. How you can speak your truth without apology, but also without losing your cool or losing the people you love. Because here's the reality. The world needs strong men now more than ever. But it also needs those men to be wise, strategic, and unshakable. So buckle up, guys. Let's get into it. All right, men, before we go any further, let's get clear on what we're talking about when we use the term woke culture. Now, originally, woke wasn't a bad word. It came from, I think, sometime in the 60s slang, and being woke meant being aware, being awake, being alert to social injustice. And that's not a bad thing. As men, we should care about injustice. We should be aware of the ways society can fail people. But somewhere along the way, that awareness mutated into something else entirely. It stopped being about conversation and it became about control. It shifted from open dialogue to ideological conformity. From I'm awake to injustice to you must see the world exactly as I do or you're the enemy. And if you're looking for a little historical context, just think about what happened culturally after the civil rights movement, the sexual revolution, the women's liberation movement from the 60s and 70s. These were massive, seismic shifts in society, some with good fruit and some with some unintended consequences. Now you fast forward a little bit into the early 2000s, and you start to see identity politics creeping in and taking a bigger role. And of course, the rise of social media gives everyone a megaphone. And at first, that might have been exciting, but by the 2010s, that megaphone had turned into a moral bullhorn. Certain topics became off limits. Certain words became violence. Certain viewpoints were labeled as harm or toxic simply for existing. And now, here we are today, living in a culture where gender is seen as fluid, and questioning that can make you a pariah. Biological facts are sometimes treated as optional or maybe even hateful. There's this healthy at any size movement, and it's preached as gospel, even if it flies in the face of basic human science. Abortion isn't just defended, it's celebrated in some circles. Faith, especially Christian faith, is increasingly viewed as oppressive or outdated. And traditional masculine traits, things like strength, leadership, decisiveness, they're often branded as toxic. So this is the minefield that we are walking through every day, guys. And here's the hard truth. If you don't have a compass, you're going to drift. And if you do have a compass, you're going to face resistance for following it. So here's the question. How do we navigate this world without losing ourselves? So I want you guys to think about creating a masculine mandate for yourselves. Because before you can stand strong in public, you got to know exactly what you believe in private. Okay, men, before you can stand strong in this culture, you got to know exactly what you stand on. Now that sounds obvious, but here's the reality. Most guys don't take the time to actually define their values. They know they don't like certain trends. They know some things feel wrong, but if you press them on why they believe what they believe, they'd give you these half-formed answers, maybe sound bites or whatever they picked up from their favorite YouTube channel or Facebook influencer. But guys, that's not going to cut it. If you don't have a clearly defined belief system rooted in something solid, you're going to crumble under pressure. When the office diversity training tells you to use certain pronouns, when your kid's school starts pushing radical gender ideology, when your friends post pro-abortion, shout your choice messages and memes on Instagram, if you don't know your convictions inside and out, you'll either fold, you're going to explode, or go silent. So here's your masculine mandate. Number 1, know your truth. Number 2, honor your truth. Number 3, live your truth. So let's break that down. Know your truth. This isn't about my truth versus your truth relativism. This is about objective reality and the principles you've chosen to live by. So I want you to ask yourself, what do you believe about God and the ultimate source of truth? What do you believe about men and women, their roles, their value, their differences? What do you believe about the value of human life? What do you believe about freedom? And where is the line between my rights and someone else's? What do you believe about the role of masculinity in today's world? And guys, I want you to write this down. Like literally, I want you to write your answers to these questions down. Don't just think it, write it down. Because a man with no written code is a man who will be rewritten by culture. Number 2, you got to honor your truth. It's one thing to believe something, and it's another thing entirely to actually live in alignment with it when there's a social, financial, or relational cost. So honoring your truth means you don't pretend to agree just to keep the peace. You don't compromise your values to fit in, and you don't hide parts of who you are in order to be accepted. You can be respectful without being fake. You can disagree without being disrespectful, but you must have the courage to let people know where you stand when it matters. And finally, number 3, live your truth. Masculinity isn't just declared, it's demonstrated, it's lived out. You show your truth every day in the way you lead your family, the way you speak in public, the way you conduct yourself online, the way you treat those who disagree with you, and how you set boundaries in your home, your workplace, and your friendships. When people see that your words and your actions match, even if they disagree with you, they're going to respect you more than if you were just another opinionated loudmouth. So here's the bottom line. If you want to stand strong in today's culture, you need more than just a loud voice and a short fuse. You need a code. A code rooted in something eternal, something unshakable, a foundation, something that doesn't change with the hashtags or the headlines. And when you have that code, you stop being tossed around by every cultural trend. You become the rock in the river, not the leaf floating downstream. So next up, guys, let's build a blueprint for being unshakable without being unbearable. Let's talk about how we're going to hold the line with steel in your spine and silk in your delivery. All right, man, let's get something straight. Being bold doesn't mean being an asshole. A lot of guys here speak your truth and they think it's a license to bulldoze everyone in their path. But guys, that's not masculine strength. That's insecurity just with a louder voice. True strength is what I like to call steel and silk. Steel is you are immovable in your convictions, and silk is your delivery is controlled, measured, respectful, even stoic. When you put steel and silk together, you become the kind of man people listen to, even when they disagree. So let's talk about some practical ways to do this. I got 6 tips here to help you navigate today's cultural minefields. Number 1 is to lead with respect, not hostility. Respect doesn't mean you agree. Respect means you treat people with dignity while making your position clear. A masculine man never needs to yell, belittle, or throw verbal grenades to get his point across. When you speak calmly, firmly, and directly, it cuts deeper than any amount of shouting ever will. Number 2, listen more than you speak in heated conversations. Look, listening more than you speak is a good rule in general, more so when conversations are emotional and getting heated. And guys, this is a power move. When someone is emotionally charged and you actually listen, it disarms them. Maybe ask some clarifying questions like, help me understand why you see it that way, or can you share your reasoning on that with me? This isn't about pretending to agree. It's about showing that you're confident enough to let someone fully speak their mind before you share yours. Tip number 3, use I believe instead of you're wrong. This is the difference between opening a door and slamming it shut. You're wrong is going to put the other person on defense immediately, but using words like I believe makes it about your conviction, not their character. So, for example, instead of saying something like, that's just stupid or ridiculous, there's only 2 genders, try, I believe there are 2 genders because of biological reality. It's firm, but it's not necessarily antagonistic. Number 4, avoid sarcasm and personal digs. This is beneath a masculine man. Sarcasm might make you feel good, it might make you feel clever, but it kills your influence. If your goal is to win the person and not just the argument, drop the cheap shots. A man who truly owns his convictions doesn't need to score points. He's playing a long game. Number 5, know when to walk away. Sometimes the most masculine move is to disengage. If the conversation is devolved into shouting, name-calling, or outright hostility, you can say, man, I think we're done here. We're just going in circles. Let's pick this up another time. Guys, that's not weakness. That's control. Number 6, remember the goal. You're not trying to destroy the other person. You're trying to maintain your integrity, plant some seeds of truth, and you're trying to model strength under pressure. Look, guys, the world is full of loud voices trying to prove their worth, trying to prove their message. What's rare is a man who can stand firm, speak clearly, and leave the other person thinking, I might not agree with that dude, but I respect him. That's your mission. That's the art of being unshakable without being unbearable. All right, guys, next up, let's walk into the lion's den together here. Let's break down some of the most common cultural flashpoints and exactly how to navigate them without compromising an inch. All right, man, it is one thing to talk about standing firm. It's another to actually do it when the topic on the table could blow up your relationships, your reputation, maybe even your career. So let's talk about a few of the biggest cultural flashpoints that you're likely to face and how to walk through each one with both steel and silk. First up, homosexuality in LGBTQ, I think, if I get those letters right. Here's what culture says. All sexual lifestyles and identities must be celebrated, affirmed, and normalized. Any dissent is hate. Here's my personal stance. As a card-carrying libertarian, I believe that adults have the right to do whatever they choose and to live however they choose. That's their freedom. But that freedom does not extend to compelling my participation, affirmation, or celebration. I can respect a person's dignity without endorsing their choices. Here's a couple tips on how to navigate this cultural flashpoint. Number 1, lead with respect. I believe every single person, regardless of what they believe, deserves dignity and kindness. Number 2, clarify your conviction without hostility. Say something like, I don't share the same beliefs about sexuality, but I still respect you as a person. And then finally, avoid debates that turn into personal attacks. Focus on principles, not personalities. So first cultural flashpoint is homosexuality and LGBTQ. Next up, kind of similar to this, is the whole gender fluidity and pronoun thing. Here's what culture says. Gender is a spectrum, and refusing to use someone's chosen pronouns is violence, erasure, or hate. My stance, biology is a reality. I'm not going to speak untruths, even under social pressure. Freedom of speech includes the freedom not to be compelled into false speech. Here's how I might navigate these situations. Stay calm. Say something like, I respect you as a person, but I believe that gender is rooted in biological reality. And if pressured, look, I'm happy to call you by your name, but I'm not going to use pronouns that conflict with my personal beliefs. And finally, don't turn this into a shouting match, of course. State your position once firmly and then just move on. All right, the next cultural flashpoint I want to talk about is one that comes from my personal experience in my other business. If you guys don't know, I am a health and wellness coach. So I'm a nutrition coach. I'm a personal trainer. I work with men and women in their 50s and 60s, help them lose weight, build muscle, get healthy, all that good stuff. And so I wanted to throw this one in here because although you guys may not see it a whole lot, I see it all the time. And that's the healthy at any size movement. Here's what culture says. Culture says weight and health are unrelated, and questioning this is fat shaming. Here's my stance as a professional in this space. Every person has value and worth, but health is an objective reality tied to lifestyle, nutrition, and physical condition. Pretending otherwise is dangerous and it's lying, and lying is not compassion. And here's some ways I navigate that. Obviously, you want to avoid mocking appearances. Stick to health facts. Second, you want to share truth as encouragement, not condemnation. Say things like, your body is worth caring for and honoring. It's not about shame, it's about stewardship. And then finally, of course, I'm a big fan of modeling health in your own life instead of preaching to others. All right, next up for cultural flashpoints is abortion. So here's what culture says. Culture says abortion is a woman's right, and opposing it, it's anti-woman or anti-choice. My personal stance, life begins at conception and life is sacred. I believe in protecting the unborn while also offering compassion and support to women in crisis. Here's some tips on how to navigate this one. Don't lead with politics, lead with humanity. Maybe share your personal convictions. I believe every human life has value, no matter how small. And be willing to help, not just protest. Support adoption, crisis pregnancy resources, things of that nature. And then the final cultural flashpoint I want to talk about here is anti-Christian sentiment. Culture says Christianity is oppressive, it's outdated, it's harmful to quote-unquote progress. Here's my personal stance. I am unapologetically Christian. I believe that following Christ is the ultimate source of truth, freedom, and love. But I also believe that faith is a choice, not something to be forced. So this is how I navigate this. I live it before I preach it. And when challenged, I say things like, my faith informs everything I do, and I firmly believe that it is the source of hope that this world needs, but I respect that others see it differently. I'm willing to answer questions with humility and not arrogance. Guys, here's the thread that's running through all of this. You can still be clear without being cruel. You can be respectful without being fake. And you can disagree without being disrespectful. And if you master that balance, you're going to be able to hold the line in today's culture without losing your influence or your soul. All right, so that's all fine and good, but let's talk about the most difficult battleground of all, and that's when woke ideology comes from inside your own family or your close circle of friends. Because look, guys, this is where it gets personal, and it's where your masculine leadership matters the most. All right, guys, let's be honest. It's one thing to stand firm when you're dealing with strangers on the internet, maybe social media, or even coworkers that you are acquaintances. You barely know them. But it's another thing entirely when it's your son, your daughter, your brother, your friend. Because when it's close to home, the stakes aren't just ideological, they're relational. And if you're not careful, you can burn bridges that you may never be able to rebuild. I've talked to guys who've lost connections with their kids because every conversation turned into a political or cultural grenade. I've talked to guys who've gone silent because they were terrified of upsetting the people that they love. And look, guys, neither of those extremes is leadership. We're called to do something harder and better. And I've got 5 tips for you guys to help you navigate this treacherous terrain at home and with loved ones. And first up is to love without enabling. Look, you can love someone deeply without endorsing every belief they hold or lifestyle choices they make. The trap is in thinking that love equals agreement. It doesn't. Real love says, I care about you enough to tell you the truth, even when it costs me. That means that you can say to your adult child or to your close friend, look, I will always love you. That will never change, but I don't share your beliefs on this. Number 2 tip is to pick your battles. Not every disagreement needs to be a debate. So guys, ask yourself this. Will this conversation strengthen this relationship, or is it just going to throw up bigger walls? Is this the right time and place for this conversation? Am I trying to win the person or just win the argument? Because sometimes the wisest move is to hold your tongue in the moment so you can speak into their life later when they're ready to hear you. Tip number 3, set boundaries without drama. If certain topics always turn toxic, you've got the right to say, let's agree to avoid this subject when we're together. Or, look, I'm not going to participate in that conversation right now. Boundaries protect the relationship. They also protect you from being dragged into endless, unproductive conflict. Tip number 4, maintain influence through example. This is one of my favorite ones, guys. Your actions speak louder than your Facebook posts. When your kids or friends or family members see you living with strength, discipline, humility, and love, it's really hard for them to write you off as some toxic lunatic just because of your beliefs. I want you guys to live in a way that even if they disagree with everything you say, they can't deny the fruit in your life. And finally, last but not least, tip number 5, pray and play the long game. Hearts and minds rarely change in one heated conversation. If you're a man of faith, pray for the people in your circle who've bought into destructive ideology. Keep the doors open, stay patient, be consistent. Here's the bottom line. You're not a man of conviction when you're debating strangers online. You're a man of conviction when you're able to hold the line and hold your loved ones close, even when the gap between your worldviews feels like a canyon. All right, next up, I want to talk about a warrior code for modern culture. I want to distill a set of principles to guide us in every conversation, every interaction, every stand that we take. Let's think of this as our playbook for being an honorable man in a dishonorable age. Men, here's the truth. Culture is going to change. Trends are going to come and go. Words are going to get redefined. Values are going to get flipped upside down. But the role of masculinity and masculine men hasn't changed, and it won't. We are called to be protectors, providers, leaders, and truth tellers. And if you want to thrive in today's cultural climate without losing your soul, you need a set of clear, non-negotiable principles. Here's what I'm calling the warrior code for modern culture. These are 10 rules for living as a man of conviction in a world that's lost its compass. Number 1, know your non-negotiables. If you haven't defined your core beliefs, the culture's going to define them for you. Guys, I can't emphasize this enough. Write them down. Own them. Live by them. Number 2, stand firm even when it costs you. Popularity is cheap. Integrity is priceless. Be willing to lose applause, opportunities, even relationships rather than betray your convictions. Number 3, speak truth with courage and respect. Remember, steel in your spine, silk in your voice. You're not trying to crush people. You're trying to plant seeds that might grow later. Number 4, protect your inner circle. Guys, protect your home, your marriage, your kids. This is your first battlefield. Guard what comes through your door, your devices, and your dinner table conversations. Number 5, don't let anger be your default setting. Guys, righteous anger has its place, don't get me wrong, but constant outrage is going to poison you and your relationships. Respond with strength, not reactivity. Number 6, play the long game. Hearts don't change in one heated argument. Be patient, stay consistent, build trust over time. Number 7, live the example. Be the man whose discipline, faith, and results speak louder than his words. People can dismiss your opinions, but they can't dismiss a life well lived. Number 8, choose your battles. Choose battles worth fighting. Not every hill is worth dying on. Save your energy for the issues that truly matter. Number 9, keep building your strength. Physical, mental, emotional, moral, spiritual. A weak man can't lead. Stay sharp in every area of your life. And finally, number 10, lead with love, not fear. Fear divides. Love unites. Love is not weakness. It's the fuel for every act of true masculine strength. Guys, if you live by this code, you're never going to have to wonder how to respond to the cultural chaos all around you. You're going to know. And more than that, the people in your life will know exactly where you stand, and they'll respect you for it, even if they disagree with you. All right, guys, as we're wrapping up here, I want to give you a challenge, something to do this week to start putting all of this into action, because knowledge without action is useless. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about knowing your truth. We've talked about standing firm without being a jerk. We've talked about walking through cultural minefields with both conviction and composure. But here's the truth. None of that matters if it just stays inside your head. Conviction without action is just decoration. So here's your 3-step challenge for this week. Step number 1, identify your silent spot. Think about one cultural issue where you've been biting your tongue out of fear. Fear of losing approval, fear of conflict, fear of being labeled. I want you to write that down. I want you to be honest with yourself. Number 2, get crystal clear on your convictions. Ask yourself, what do I believe about this issue? Why do I believe this? Am I willing to say this out loud? If you can't answer those questions, I want you to spend some time this week digging deep through scripture, history, through trusted brothers and mentors, and your own self-reflection. And finally, number 3, I want you to speak your truth this week. Find one opportunity in the next 7 days to speak up. This doesn't mean starting a fight or dropping truth bombs at the next family get-together. It might be as simple as saying, I see that differently, in a casual conversation. The point is to flex that muscle, to remind yourself that your voice matters. Man, we're living in a time when silence is surrender, when truth is treated like hate, when masculinity is labeled as toxic. The world doesn't need more men to go along and get along. It needs men who are willing to stand tall, speak truth, and lead with love. So this week, find your moment, stand your ground, do it with honor, do it with strength, do it with respect. And remember, steel in your spine, silk in your voice, fire in your belly. Guys, get out there this week, stand tall, speak true, and stay strong. Okay, men, that's our show for this week. Don't forget to download our free guide titled How to Raise Your Testosterone Naturally. You can find the download link in the show notes for this episode on whatever app you're listening to this podcast on. If you've enjoyed today's show, here are 3 ways you can support us. Number 1, share this episode with a friend. Number 2, make sure to like and follow this show, and please consider leaving us a 5-star review. Number 3, give us a follow over at Instagram. We're at Alpha Edge Army. So that's Alpha Edge Army all run together. I really appreciate you men taking the time to listen. And until next week, stay strong.